Well, hello everyone. Good afternoon, good morning or good evening, depending on whenever you see this webinar. My name is Ifoma Ike. Everyone calls me Iffy. I am with the team of the Black Innovation Alliance, and we are excited to share this webinar called Let's Talk About Patents, IPs, and Federal Contracting Opportunities with our experts at the United States Patent and Trademark Office and the Department of Energy. As you all may know, BIA has built a relationship with the White House Initiative on Economic and Educational Opportunities and Excellence for Black Americans, which has resulted in a series of webinars really committed to how do we connect more entrepreneurs, Black entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs of color, to opportunities that currently exist in our state and national fora. And we wanted to make sure that that included how people can jumpstart their relationships now through contracting opportunities, training opportunities, and technical support. So we want to get right into our webinars because we know that this is an area that all entrepreneurs are focused on. So we're excited to start with our friends at USPTO, which will then be followed by a Q&A session just to see if there are any questions. Then we will go to Department of Energy, where we will also hear their presentation, and we welcome you all to share questions in the chat. And we also will stay engaged with those who view this afterwards, because we know this is in the middle of the day, to ensure that if there are any questions that are left unanswered, we can get to our federal partners so that they can also get back to you in a prompt manner. With that being said, I am excited to hand this over to the team of USPTO. Monica Shin will be presenting, and we look forward to hearing your questions afterwards. So Monica, if you're ready.
Thank you. I will start. All right. Great. Is everything showing up okay on screen?
Looks perfect.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the introduction. My name is Monica Shin. I'm a patent examiner with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, or the USPTO. I'm also an assistant outreach coordinator with the Eastern Regional Outreach Office of the USPTO. Today, I'm going to go over some USPTO resources for independent inventors, small business owners, and entrepreneurs. So before we begin, just a disclaimer, if there's any references to particular products, patents, trademarks, service marks, services, companies, or any organizations in this presentation, they're just for illustrative and educational purposes only and do not constitute or imply any endorsement by us. So the USPTO is America's innovation agency. We're committed to fostering innovation and economic growth and creating a reliable, predictable, and high-quality IP system. So we're the agency that you come to if you want to apply for a patent or a trademark. We also provide, amongst other things, outreach and IP education for the community. So the IP system is deeply rooted in our nation's history. You can find us in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8 of the U.S. Constitution, where it reads, the Congress shall have the power to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive rights to their respective writings and discoveries. So before we get into the specific resources, we're going to do a quick overview of the types of intellectual property so that we can put the USPTO resources kind of more into context. So there are 4 types of intellectual property. There are patents, which cover new and inventive ideas. Trademarks, which are source identifiers. They identify the origin of goods or services. Copyrights cover creative expression stored in a tangible medium. And trade secrets and that's for any information that's valuable and kept confidential. So a patent will give you the right to exclude others from making, using, selling, offering for sale, or importing the claimed invention. So in exchange for publicly disclosing your invention, you'll be essentially given a limited monopoly on your invention for a limited time. So for a utility patent, that's going to be generally 20 years from the filing date of your application. For design patents, I believe it's 15 years from the grant date of your design patent. Now, patents are territorial. This means that if you obtain a US patent, you'll be able to enforce your patent and protect your invention that's covered by the patent only in the United States. So if, for example, you wanted to protect your invention in Canada, you'd have to apply for a patent in Canada as well. So a trademark is a source identifier. Trademarks allow consumers to identify the source or producer of different products and services. They help consumers with their buying decisions. And they also encourage trademark owners to provide goods and services of consistent quality and to build goodwill in the trademark. So, for example, if you see the Nike swoosh or the golden arches of McDonald's, you know the products that you're getting, the services that you're getting, you know the quality of what you're receiving. Now, trademark is good for pretty much for as long as you use your mark in association with the goods or services that you register with. Now, what can be a trademark? Brand names or logos are the ones that you probably identify most with. But you can also trademark colors and smells and sounds or jingles. So, for example, if you familiar with Tiffany's jewelry, the Tiffany blue is something that they've trademarked. So, if you see a blue box you associated with Tiffany, and you know that's going to be a Tiffany product in there. Smells, if you know Play-Doh, the smell of the Play-Doh is something that's also a trademark. And so, when you smell that scent, you know that it's a Play-Doh product. An example of a sound or a jingle that's been trademarked, Netflix, the opening jingle. You don't have to see the mark; you can hear it, and you probably know that someone has turned on Netflix. Now, what does a trademark not do? A trademark does not mean that you legally own a word or a phrase. It does not mean that you can stop others from using the word or phrase, and it does not mean that people owe you money if they use a word or a phrase. So a common misconception is that having a trademark means that you legally own a particular word or phrase and you can prevent others from using it. However, you don't have rights to the word or phrase in general, only to the word or phrase that's used with your specific goods or services that you register your trademark with. So, for example, if you trademark a logo or a trademark with your woodworking business to identify and distinguish your goods and services from other woodworking fields, you can stop others in that same field from using that name or logo, but you can't use it for other products. So this may be why you see similar words, but for different products. So for example, Delta Airlines versus Delta Dental. Delta Airlines, their airline service is very different from dental products that, if you see the two dentals or deltas, excuse me, the Delta Airlines is going to be an airline service. You won't confuse it with Delta Dental services. Now, a copyright protects original works of authorship, including literary, dramatic, musical, artistic.
Okay, we will get Monica.
Apologies, if I
That's okay.
backed on. Okay, sorry. Let me reshare my screen. See where we left off. Okay, I think we are
Perfect. We're all
back right
good.
now. Awesome, great. Thank you for your patience on that. So copyrights. Copyrights protect original works of authorship, including literary, dramatic, musical, artistic, and other works fixed in a tangible medium. Copyrights are administered by the Library of Congress. copyright registrations are done by the U.S. Copyright Office, which is within the Library of Congress, which is actually in the legislative branch of the government. The USPTO, however, does advise the executive branch on intellectual property issues, including copyright. So the term of a copyright is generally life of the author plus 70 years, or 95 years from the first publication for works made for hire. The work must be fixed in a tangible form of expression. And the US required level of originality is quite low. It's a modicum of creativity, but other countries' laws may differ in this respect. Now, a trade secret is any information that derives economic value from not being generally known or ascertainable. Trade secrets can cover, for example, formulas, patterns, compilations, programs, devices, methods, techniques, or processes. So there's no term limit for trade secrets. A trade secret is yours for as long as it's kept a secret. However, do be warned that it doesn't preclude others from reverse engineering or developing independently your product or process that you covered under a trade secret. It also doesn't preclude the owner or owner authorized disclosures. The owner of the trade secret must also take adequate steps to prevent disclosures. So examples of trade secrets that you may be aware of are like the Coca-Cola formulation. That's kept as a tight secret. But again, it doesn't stop somebody from trying to reverse engineer the formula. So now we're going to dive into the USPTO resources. Our website, you can find us at uspto.gov. Everything that you need to know about applying for a patent or a trademark or to learn about intellectual property can be found on our USPTO website. You can also use this QR code to get there directly right now if you'd like to check it out. Our headquarters is in Alexandria, Virginia. The Eastern Regional Outreach Office is also within headquarters and covers the states in red. We also have 4 other regional offices that are strewn throughout the US. The Midwest Regional Office is in Detroit and covers the states in green. Texas Regional Office is in Dallas and covers the states in blue. The Rocky Mountain Regional Office is in Denver and covers the states in purple. And the Silicon Valley office, or the Western Regional Office, is in San Jose and covers the states in orange. So now with these regional offices and our headquarters, we all have resources, but the regional offices, if you're not in the DMV area, for example, you can also reach out to your regional office and they may be able to connect you with specific organizations or resources that are more local to your state because they're the experts of their region and the resources of their region as well. They're also, like our headquarters, is able to help you to search for inventions and trademarks, get free patent and trademark legal assistance, which we'll talk about a little more later, and help you find resources that may be of help for you as you begin to build your businesses. So we have a hub on our USPTO website specifically for inventors and entrepreneurs. And this is where you can find resources when you're just beginning. For example, learning about the learning about patents and trademarks, seeing when some of our free educational events are coming up, and just like learning about how to apply and actually applying. We also have a site specifically for access to resources for startups. So this will be a little more specific to startups in that you can learn about IP and how it may help in securing funding or learning about guarding against litigation when you're a startup. And it also has some links to additional federal government agencies that that may be able to also provide you with relevant resources when you're building your business. We have the Inventors Assistance Center and the Trademark Assistance Center. The Inventors Assistance Centers can provide you with general information about the patent examination policy and procedure. And then the Trademark Assistance Center does that on the trademark end, providing general information about the trademark registration process. Now, they won't be able to give you any legal advice on the matter, but they will be able to answer any questions that you may have about the registration process and the patent examination procedures and policy in general. These are their hours and the numbers, and the website link will take you directly to their page. So there are some free legal assistance programs out there. There's the Patent Pro Bono program and the Law School Clinic Certification program. So the Patent Pro Bono program is a nationwide program that matches financially under-resourced inventors and small businesses with volunteer patent practitioners to help them file and prosecute patent applications. So if you go to this website, you should see a map and see the list of Patent Pro Bono programs and the regions that they cover. If you go directly to their site, then you'll see what the qualifications are to become part of their program. Now, the Law School Clinic Certification Program permits law schools and law students under the supervision of a participating law school clinic supervisor who is a licensed attorney to practice patent and or trademark law before the USPTO and provide those services to the applicants pro bono. So if you go to this link, you'll see a list of the law schools that participate in this clinic program. And it should also have what regions that they service. Some cover the entire US, some only take clients from a certain portion of the US, some only do certain states in the US. So look out for that. And then also, it'll also let you know whether they do patent prosecution, trademark, or both. And also please note that while applicants are not charged for the legal services, applicants are going to be responsible for paying the USPTO fees and any additional costs that may arise. And you can search USPTO fees to see what those are. Now, if you decide to apply for a patent or trademark without an attorney or a patent practitioner, for example, you'd be known as a pro se applicant. So we have the Pro Se Assistance Program, which will provide outreach education and a place for you to get your questions answered if you are applying for a patent without an attorney or a patent practitioner. If you would like to see a list of patent practitioners who are in good standing, the USPTO also keeps a database of that as well. And you can go to our website and search for the patent practitioner database, and you can search, I believe, by name or a zip code or a state so that you can see who's available in your region. We also have the Patent and Trademark Resource Centers, or PTRCs, which is a nationwide network of public, state, and academic libraries that are designated by the USPTO to disseminate patent and trademark information and to support the IP needs of the public. So on the website, you can see this map. It should be, I believe it should be interactive on the actual website, and you can see what the closest PTRC library is to you. And there should be staff there who can help you, for example, I believe learn how to search or get answers to any IP questions that you have, or connect you with the resources that will help you with the next steps. And we do have reduced patent fees for those that qualify as a small entity and micro entity. A small entity will give you a 50% reduction in most patent fees. And to be considered a small entity, you must be either an individual, a small business that's less than 500 employees, or a nonprofit organization. A micro entity will give you a 75% reduction in most of the patent fees. And in addition to meeting the small entity requirements, you must also have filed no more than 4 previous applications. Your income must not be greater than 3 times the median income. You must be not assigned to anything other than a micro entity. And in that count of 4 previous applications, inventions that are assigned to an employer of yours does not count against you. And you can go to this website to learn more about the microentity status. And we also have the Track 1 Prioritization Examination Program. If you want to kind of fast track your application for a fee, you can get your application to a Track 1 status, which will prioritize examination and will allow you to get a final disposition within about 12 months. So it helps you kind of skip the line. And this is also a pilot program, a first-time filer expedited examination pilot program. It's part of our efforts to increase accessibility to the patent system for inventors who are new to the patent application process, including those in the historically underserved geographic and economic areas. The USPTO will accept up to 1,000 qualifying applications until March 11th, 2024. But it is subject to its discretion to terminate sooner. But it reduces the amount of time that it takes to receive a first action on the merits and can give you an early indication of whether your invention that you're applying for is patentable. And this can help you potentially get a patent and onto the market faster. Sorry about that, being a little finicky today. If I can reshare. Okay, so I believe this is maybe where I left off. So for that pilot program, qualifying applications that are accepted into this pilot program will be advanced out of turn for examination until a first office action. And the application is afforded a special status without the applicant incurring the petition to make special fee or satisfying the requirements of the accelerated examination program. And we also have the IP identifier tool, which will take you through a series of questions to help you identify what IP you may need or for your business and how to go about protecting it. So the four IP types of IP that we talked about earlier in the presentation, they can be used also like together in conjunction. So for example, I think taking your cell phone, for example, there are a lot of hardware components, for example, that are covered by patents, but the logo, like the Apple logo that's on the phone, that's a trademark. Copyrights may protect the coding that's used or the instruction manual that accompanies that phone. And there may be trade secrets that cover, components or processes they use that they don't want to disclose to the public because it's something that gives them an edge in the business. So there's a combination of IP that you can use to protect your innovation and your businesses. And also, it's a little fun fact about, for example, Coca-Cola. If you're familiar with the glass bottle, they, I believe, got a design patent long ago. But again, a design patent is good for 15 years from the date of the grant. However, a trademark, though, is good for as long as you use it in association with the goods or services that you registered it with. And so the Coke bottle apparently became so recognizable to the public as a source identifier for Coca-Cola that, after the design patent was expired, the silhouette of it was so identifiable that they were able to get it as a trademark. And so they're still able to kind of protect that. So there is a strategy that goes into the IP that you use to be able to protect yourself and your business. Now, there are other USPTO resources on this page that specific ones that may be of help to you that you can explore, also all on our website. And we also have a calendar of free USPTO events that you can tune into. If you search USPTO events on our website, it should take you to this page. We have 2 quarterly series that will take you through patent basics and trademark basics. So every quarter we do an 8-part path to a patent series, which will do an overview of patent basics and take you through how to search for a patent, the components of a patent application and how to apply for a patent. And then there's also on the trademark side, similarly, a quarterly, I believe, 8-part series that takes you through trademark basics called the Trademark Basics Boot Camp. That'll take you through trademark basics, what you need to apply for a trademark and how to apply. So these may be good educational references for you to at least know about the system and know about the process that you'd like to go through if you'd like to apply for a patent or a trademark. And I believe the next installment of Path to a Patent will be November 30th at 2 p.m. It'll be how to file using the Patent Center. And then Trademark Basics, it looks like it's ended for this quarter, but it'll restart January 9th with Part 1, Trademark Fundamentals at 2 p.m. on January 9th. Also, we have events that are also kind of more industry specific, just educational purposes. For example, right now we have going on the Fashion, Beauty, and IP series, which explores the intersection between IP and the fashion and beauty sectors. So tomorrow we have our second installment of that series at 4 p.m. If you'd like to go to our events website, search for that to register. It'll be about fashion law, social justice, and inclusion in IP. So yeah. And if you'd like to stay up to date on our events and updates, please feel free to subscribe on this website so that you are up to date on all our going on. And thank you so much for your attention. If you'd like to reach out to us or follow us on social media, here's our social media. And if you have any questions, even after this presentation, please feel free to reach out to us at Eastern Regional Outreach Office at uspto.gov. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Monica, for that information. For other entrepreneurs that are on this call, we kind of had to navigate USPTO on our own without a presentation like this. And so just want to highlight that this information hopefully will help people who have not looked at protecting what they have done as prioritizing it. And for those that have done it, if they are looking to continually update how they not update, but protect, excuse me, some of the methods by which they do their business. This is also something that I really appreciate you sharing in such a succinct way. I want to make sure if folks have questions, feel free to put it into the chat. One of the things that I want to raise that maybe folks have gone through, maybe they don't know, is, and you kind of touched on it, is that people can protect things like, you know, curriculum or things like, you know, packages of learnings or teachings or maybe the ways that they do what they do. So I don't know, I'm not using the right terminology, but I just express that because there are people that are also consultants that feel like I don't necessarily produce a widget or I don't produce a product, but I offer services and expertise. So can you talk a little bit more about that, Monica?
Sure. Just as a caveat, anything I do say is not legal advice in any way. And also, I'm more in the patents realm, so I'm also
Sure.
a little more, I think, high level in general with copyrights and trademarks and trade secrets. But yes, like you said, written products that are written down can be covered by, for example, copyright. And that's going to be done at the U.S. Copyright Office within the Library of Congress. I believe their website is copyright.gov if you'd like to learn more about the copywriting aspect, but also services, educational services. If you're providing a service, you can trademark your business name or logo, for example, that that you are operating under to provide that service. So trademark is not just for goods. I know we associated maybe more with, like, you know, fashion brands or restaurants and things like that, but it also does cover services as well. So typically they're like service marks are also a type of trademark.
Awesome. Thank you. So as usual, we will keep open. I believe, Monica, you will be with us through the end of this conversation. So for those that are still thinking about questions that are related to their business, please feel free to put that in the chat. and we will make sure that that is asked in real time. Whatever questions you're thinking of, there are other people that are thinking about this. So knowing that we're going to replay this and rebroadcast it, your questions are really going to be supportive for how other businesses are able to do their business. So with that said, I want to check in with Dr. Henry McCoy to see if he's ready. I see. How are you, Henry?
I'm doing well. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you again. For those that do not know, Dr. McCoy is a really close friend of BIA, also was there at the launch of the Congressional Black Innovation Caucus and has been supportive as to how his space as a presidential appointee is really connected to connecting more entrepreneurs to the Department of Education and the many different subgroups that are in that space. So Dr. McCoy, I am going to pass it over to you to talk a little bit more about DOE and how we can get more connected to some of the opportunities there.
Thank you, Iffy. Happy to be here. Let me share my screen. See if I can get the right one up here.
We don't want to say the wrong one.
Yeah,
no government secrets over here.
Got so many screens going on, it's hard to tell which is the right one or wrong one. So I think I got it. Let's see here. Oh, well, that may not be the right one. Let's see. Y'all can see my Zoom. Let me see if I can. Let me go back out here. I do have a lot of screens. Stop sharing and see. Move this and let's see if this has worked. Let's try this. All right, I think that works. All right, so we're happy to see everybody, and I'm glad to have you here today. Glad to be doing this. Glad to be doing this presentation with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. We've had a chance to engage some with them from the Department of Energy, and we always push the fact that innovation is such a huge part of what we do here. So I really wanted to kind of go through in a pretty succinct fashion some of the work that we do at Department of Energy, and to give you a sense as entrepreneurs, where you might fit in. I actually start with this slide that really gives a little bit of an overview of my work and my background. If you mentioned some of the engagement I had, with BIA as it launched, and the Caucus on Black Innovation. So very happy to continue to be engaged in this work. And every year we get a chance to come together and during the Congressional Black Caucus and engage. But I put this up because I want to give you some sense of that you really do have an ally in this work here at the Department of Energy. I do serve as the inaugural director of the U.S. Department of Energy's Office of State and Community Energy Programs. I came in back in July 2022. This presentation will give you a chance to learn a bit about the work that we do and how to hopefully help you understand where you might be able to fit in. I did serve as a former assistant secretary of the North Carolina Department of Commerce, and so entrepreneurship and business development is something that I'm very passionate about. And like any other government programs, on the other side of the dollars and cents is opportunity, and I certainly want you all to be aware of what that opportunity is and how to engage with it. I have spent my time and my career focused around entrepreneurship and economic development. I spent the first decade or so of my life as a banking executive, the bank that's now grown up nationally to become Truist, but also an investment executive. I launched and ran a funding organization that funded entrepreneurs, particularly funding entrepreneurs that are historically underrepresented. So had a investment banking firm that really tried to put together entrepreneurs and capital to help those entrepreneurs grow and spread and be successful. I ran that firm as a CEO for a good period of time until I was called into the public sector again, first in Assistant Secretary of Commerce in North Carolina under the then governor, and now in this particular role. But I try to bring all of my background to the table, which includes public sector, private sector, philanthropic sector, from the local to the international levels. And I'm really passionate about driving social and environmental justice. And that brings me to the work that I do on a day-to-day basis here at the Department of Energy. So what is our office here at the Department of Energy? And so, my team runs, what is the State Community Energy Programs Office here in the Department of Energy. And the State Community Energy Program is one of the newer offices. Oh, sorry, I don't know. It seems like we're all having some tech problems. Let me see if I can get my screen back up. Let's see here. Sorry about that. Let's see. I'll tell you a little bit about, as I get the screen back up, about the, what drove the creation of the Office of State Community Energy Programs. So some of you may have heard of the bipartisan infrastructure law that got passed in 2021 in November of 2021. And so the infrastructure law that got passed provided $1 trillion that really focused on this notion of how do we transition to a clean energy economy. And so that $1 trillion program that we launched within the federal government really became a key part of the legislation that is driving the work that we do here. Let me see if I can get this up now. Let's see. All right, it should get us back. I hope. All right, so this got us back. So yeah, so the Office of State and Community Programs, we call it SCEP. It really expands the capabilities and capacity of states, tribes, local government, schools, and community level organizations. It really focuses around being a place-based organization that helps develop economic development in states and local governments around the country, with a particular focus on lower income and historically disadvantaged communities. These often are communities of color, often are Black communities. My office manages $16 billion in funding that goes out to these different entities through formula grants, which we basically take a pool of money. We look at a particular state or local government and put that some information into a formula, and it tells us how much we should give to that particular entity. We have competitive grants where we create a program. We say, hey, this is what we're trying to achieve. You should come and apply for these particular funds, and we can underwrite that work. We have training grants, and I talk a little bit about that. We have consumer rebates. I talk a little bit about that, what we call prizes and technical assistance. The reason why I want to frame it around this work is because, as an entrepreneur, obviously it's really about finding opportunities and trying to follow those opportunities. Much of the money that I have, the $16 billion, which is a tremendous amount of money, but it goes out to a lot of other grantees. So it goes out to states, it goes out to local governments, as I mentioned. So part of what I want you to do is as I talk about the work that we do, and as I talk about the amount of funding in the particular areas, I want you to think about how you might engage on the ground with this work, meaning that the opportunity may not be directly with us in the Department of Energy, though I will talk a little bit about some opportunities that may exist from an entrepreneurship standpoint, and particularly technology and innovation. But my money goes out to all these different grantees. We have more than 4,000 grantees that gets our funding across the country. The programs that we run here in SCEP are touch 250 million Americans. And so our money is wherever you are right now, wherever you're watching this, if you're watching it in the 50 US states, if you're watching it in Washington, D.C., if you're watching it from one of the 5 territories that, the Virgin Islands and Guam and other places, then my money is in that area. And so as I go through this, I want you to think about whether you have relationships or might build relationships with your local government, so whatever city you're in, your county government, wherever county you're in, your state government, build relationships with them. They're going to take the money that we give them, and they're going to create requests for proposals and create procurement opportunities that you can go after. So I want you to keep that in mind as I talk about this $16 billion. And before I go into that, I do want to also give some context that the $16 billion that I manage on behalf of this work is only a small part of the overall dollars that we have across the Department of Energy and across the federal government. There's $100 billion in funding for around things like climate change and addressing issues around climate change and energy and decarbonization across the Department of Energy as a whole. And then across the federal government as a whole, there's about $500 billion that's focused on those kind of investments as well. And so there's a lot of places that you can fit in. If your work is in, again, technology, if it's in housing, it's in different areas. If you're in a rural area, you may want to do work with U.S. Department of Agriculture, Health and Human Services. It really is a very broad area. But what you should keep in mind is that this focus on this transition from what is considered a old economy, fossil fuel economy, oil and gas and things of that nature, to a more renewable, is really driven by this idea of creating a just and equitable transition. And so when you see these words around, us investing in those communities, it's really driven by, President Biden, who a couple of days after he took office signed something called Justice 40. And Justice 40 is an executive order that essentially says that 40% of these benefits should go to historically disadvantaged communities. They should go to populations that don't usually get access to these resources. So if you don't take anything else from this particular part of the webinar, I hope you will take some time when you leave here to Google Justice 40 and get a better understanding of what that actually means related to this impact. Because one of the things that is identified as a way that Justice 40 will be delivered is my grantees, every single grantee that I have has to put forth a community benefits plan that tells me exactly how they're going to make the investments into Justice 40. This includes, how they're going to clean up communities to make them safer and environmentally healthier. They have to tell me who they're going to hire for jobs. Are they going to hire individuals who have historically not been hired for these jobs, and who they're going to procure with, which is where a lot of you all fit in this, is that as a part of Justice 40, we actually measure for every dollar we put out there, whether the states or the local governments, whoever we fund, whether they're hiring minority contractors and whether they're giving them opportunities. So all those things are things that we actually track and that we actually record. And so believe me, these grantees need you as much as you need them. And so keep that in mind as you look at opportunities around that. So let me go in and go a little bit deeper into the work that we do. So these are the 4 different provisions that are part of my organization and these divisions. So this is how the $16 billion is actually broken up in the world that we operate in. And I'll give you these broad frames. I mean, on one level, for some level of simplicity, so that you can get a sense of how the funding is set up and how much is in each of them, but also perhaps to give you some window of worldview into where you might fit in to this work. And so our first bucket of funding, the $3.5 billion, is focused on what's called a weatherization assistance program. And each of these programs are things that you can, if you want to, at some point after this, Google. But the weatherization assistance program is actually set up to go into low-income households all across the country. So every single county in the United States get access to weatherization funds in order to go into households and help make those houses more energy efficient. Well, this is the Black Innovation Alliance. And so, you may be thinking, well, housing is so old school and why does that matter to me? But actually, as anybody who's seen housing go up in these days, housing will become a more tech savvy. And certainly when it comes to energy and energy efficiency and reducing energy burdens, technology is a centerpiece of the work. DOE funds through millions and millions of dollars on an annual basis the development of new technologies that are set up to make homes more energy efficient. And so if you are someone who's developing technology, and as you heard Monica talking earlier about the U.S. Trademark process, you could possibly think about how do you create technologies that could help reduce the carbon footprint of homes, that helps reduce the energy uses for homes, that really moves this work forward. And the weatherization assistance program, the way that works into it is that there's a list of products that actually are qualified to go into houses. So the money that we give out, that $3.5 billion, basically gets turned around to buy technologies that go into houses that helps to make sure those houses are more energy efficient. And the great thing about this is that, a lot of these funds that we got from $16 billion have been part of one-time provisions. I mentioned before the bipartisan infrastructure law from November 2021 that provided us $6 billion. In August of 2022, We got another $10 billion through the Inflation Reduction Act. But weatherization assistance is actually something on an annual basis, on a year-to-year basis. My office gets roughly $350 million to do that work. So it's something that's going to be ongoing every year. We do 35,000 homes every single year with these DOE funds. It creates jobs. But if you are someone who has technology or develops technologies that can make homes more energy efficient, that can make homes smarter. So, for example, this is something that may, be much more concrete. Some of you know of the Nest, or these smart thermostats that get put in homes that help control your temperature and things of that nature. Well, that's a key part of this weatherization work, is these smart thermostats, because they go in and they help control the environment and household and things of that nature. And so it's those kind of technologies that if you can find a way to create them, to develop them, to put them into play, then those may be something that as these homes are being weatherized, as they're being upgraded, that can be purchased and put into those households. So, and this weatherization assistance program is exclusively for low-income households. So these are households that have a certain income level. And so if you want to do well and do good at the same time, then this is an area that you can look at. And we're continuing to put more innovative dollars into that space. We are funding through that $3.5 billion. Part of that money is going into making investments around the country in the innovative ideas. One thing that we're doing in Ohio, we're actually funding the country's first zero energy neighborhood, low income neighborhood, affordable home neighborhoods. And so we are looking at ways that we can, not go from one home to whole neighborhoods, whole communities. And we just launched here in Department of Energy something called a affordable home Earthshot. An affordable home Earthshot says that we're trying to find ways to reduce the cost of making homes both affordable and energy efficient at the same time. So again, if you're into home technologies and into data and the things of that nature, then thinking about the weatherization assistance program can be very helpful. If you go to number 2, which is the state energy program, the state energy program is the program that my team runs. We're the largest funder of state energy offices around the country. So every state in the United States, our 5 U.S. territories, Washington, D.C., all has someone in an office that has been appointed by the governor in most cases, for the territories and DC, it may be another title, but essentially the lead person in that state that manages the energy side. We provide the states around the country $810 million to do the work of thinking about ways to become more energy efficient. So I talked about the household side that hopefully you can understand why there's opportunity there. And there's a lot of opportunity there to again, try to get to a point where homes are zero energy, meaning they could be everything from solar or solar panels or something that we're investing in, and battery storage. And so, because the sun is out during the day, you can get energy during the day, it runs your lights, but as soon as the sun go down, then the energy is gone. And unless we create batteries that can store the energy during the day when the sun is out, then at nighttime, you got to go right back to the way you've been using energy before. And so that's something to think about, again, batteries and the such. So with the state energy program, something to kind of make that more real to you may be a lot of local governments, as you may have seen, as you go, say you park in the downtown area, they may have electric vehicle charging stations that you can pull into and plug in your vehicle. One of the things the Department of Energy is funding at a very high, tremendous level are electric vehicles. And so you think about the number of cars on the highway. Cars produce a whole lot of pollution. They emit a whole lot of greenhouse gas. And so part of this is thinking about, well, how do we move to more clean energy vehicles? But in order to do that, you got to give people convenience. For those who drive, gas-powered cars, you know how convenient it is to fill up your car, right? I mean, there's a gas station on essentially every corner that you come to, so you never have a problem with finding somewhere to pump gas. And when you stop in the gas station, regardless of how much gas you have, the fill up is pretty quick. If you are empty, you can essentially fill up a car in a minute still. And so one of the things that we're doing in the administration is really focused on how do we get people to move to more electric vehicles, which means you have to actually put together electric vehicle infrastructure along the highway, in neighborhoods and communities, at stores. And so that's another place where entrepreneurs can essentially find an opportunity, is to it's things like electric vehicle charging stations or that work. So we give the money to the states, and the states then make decisions about how they want to invest in new technologies, how they want to invest in new entities. And so your job could be either, or your entrepreneur venture could be something around technology, it could be something around electric vehicles, or it could be something around consulting and advising. The monies that we give allows the states to also think about getting advisement on work, getting plans put together, strategic assessments and things of that nature. And again, another place that this network may work in, may fit very well, is the fact that because they're required to think about inclusion of historically disadvantaged communities, communities of color, low-income communities, your firm may be the one to help them think through, well, how do you make sure that happens? Here's a real-world example, going back to what I said earlier about electric vehicle charging stations. I've had a number of conversations where I've had to tell, individuals who say, well, Black people don't buy electric vehicles, or why would I put this charging station in the hood per se? But, that can be a self-fulfilling prophecy some ways. If you can't find some place to plug up your car, then you may not, you will decide not to buy it. And so, again, the state energy offices are places that you can find opportunity. You should go to your websites for the state government and see, go into the state energy office, find out what kind of procurements they're looking for, find out what kind of opportunities they're offering, and see about plugging into that. So that's 2. Number 3, the community energy programs is a $1.2 billion program that we run here, and it covers a whole lot of opportunity. It includes what we call energy efficiency conservation block grant funding, which goes out to 2,700 local governments around the country, travel nations, things of that nature. It includes schools and nonprofits. I show a slide of this in a moment. But I mention that because, this gives you a broad range of places to plug in. Schools around the country are trying to upfit their buildings to be more energy efficient. So it's not just houses, but it's also other buildings that emit a lot of greenhouse gas. We're focused on investing in dollars into schools that have large populations of free and reduced lunch. I always tell people, I came out of free and reduced lunch population. I was free lunch. I wouldn't even reduce. I was free lunch. And so I recognize the importance of that work. And oftentimes the low-income schools are the ones who don't have, the best environment, the best atmosphere. So we're providing $500 million worth of grant funds to schools around the country to upgrade their facilities, to make them much more efficient, to introduce these jobs and opportunities to the students and the population, so they can understand, what it means to grow up and live in a healthier environment. So again, here's a place where if you have some background of engaging schools, these schools need technologies as well. Technology that measures energy usage and things of that nature in a house is very different than a unit that may be used in a commercial building like a school. And so if you're into technologies, if you're into, measuring data, if you want to analyze data, all those kind of things, you could find a place in this work as well. Also, if you do work in workforce training, I heard if we talked earlier about curriculum development, things of that nature. We have $260 million worth of funding around workforce development and workforce planning. And so that's dollars that gets invested so that there's somebody on the other side who understands how to install these technologies, how to fix these technologies. There's actually a Black female who owns a company in California. She's venture backed. She has about $21 million worth of venture capital. And her job, she has a fleet of, she's in 17 states. She has a fleet of trucks that go out and fixes electric vehicle stations, which is something you don't necessarily think about so much. We often think about the cars. We think about, where we put these electric vehicles, but these charging stations, but who fixes them? So she found a niche for herself in this tech space to say, I'm gonna train a whole workforce of people who, particularly folks who aren't necessarily getting these opportunities, to go out around the country and fix these electric vehicle stations. That there's a lot of technology behind that. There's a lot of computers behind that. And so so in the community energy program, it's one of those things that really does cast a very wide net. This is where you can find a lot of our money if you want to work with local governments. Local governments are still trying to figure these things out as well. They're also putting in infrastructure, which is my team. It's really focused around infrastructure. Technology and infrastructure mixes, in an incredible way. And so that's someplace that you may think about going forward, where you plug in. And then finally, the technical assistance partnerships, which
Really
is
quickly, sorry, Henry.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get your attention. The slides aren't moving with you.
Oh, they aren't? So what are we on?
We are still seeing your wonderful face with SCEP.
Okay.
And that's okay. We'll get the slides to everyone that's on this call, but if you could just get us to the slide that you're at now.
What are you seeing now? Because I just
program divisions.
Okay. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. It's showing me on one side. It's showing y'all something else. So okay. So this is what I've been going through right now.
Okay.
All right. So these are the 4 different divisions. So the weatherization, the state energy program, the community energy programs, and so I'm on the final one here, in the bottom right, the technical assistance partnerships. And so the technical assistance partnerships is so I just kind of show you quickly. This is a slide that I put up earlier after my intro slide that really just talks about what we do with the $16 billion in grants, and you see individuals working, and the technology. The bottom right hand corner, I talked about electric vehicle charging, and you have a building down here that may be getting energy efficiency upgrades. This is a slide I was currently on. Sorry, I wasn't getting the cues. I got a couple of slide screens here, and they showing me different things. The technical assistance partnerships is $10.1 billion. It really serves as the the driver of a lot of the work that we do here. In the coming months, you will see more of this in the news. We are the largest consumer-facing part of the Inflation Reduction Act, which is the Inflation Reduction Act is about $370 billion that got passed in the legislation in August of 2022. We're providing $8.8 billion in rebates to low-income and moderate-income households to upgrade new appliances. Those things like stoves and refrigerators and heat pumps and things of that nature that are part of technologies that will go into households. This goes back to what I talked about in terms of before. What buildings are such a huge part of what ultimately gets puts out greenhouse gas. That new technologies that's going into buildings become a key part of the work. And so part of, if you take in this conversation about the trademarks and things of that nature, or patents, really is that there's a lot of dollars and cents that goes into trying to create technologies that can be that can be patented. Organizations like IBM and other folks are racing Google and folks are racing to this marketplace because there's so much money involved here around that. And so at the household level, so we're going to invest $8.8 billion into upgrading technology within houses that go beyond what I talked about originally with the weatherization. So your technology could be a part of that, in terms of, how do you make refrigerators work better? How do you make stoves work better? How do you have them produce less greenhouse gas? Those kind of things that you can get patented if you come up with a unique and innovative design that doesn't, that hasn't existed before. So these are the 4 program divisions that make up the majority of the work within my organization. And as Iffy said, we can make sure that you all get these presentations. But I did want to kind of share that with you. So let me kind of in the last few minutes here, let me kind of move and kind of break it down in a bit more detail. I talked about the Inflation Reduction Act, which is about $10 billion of my funding. It got passed in I mentioned August of 2022, and at that point the $10 billion came to us. Here are the 4 areas that are within that. You have the home energy based whole home rebates, which I just talked about. That's where if you want to do these broader things to your house, the heat pumps. And I will say this because it becomes very important to this overall narrative. You think about something like heat pump, which I grew up in the South, so either you had kind of like central air or heat, you had fans in the windows, you had something, right? Heat pumps was not something that I grew up with, but heat pumps have been very popular in the Northeast and places like that. Well, heat pumps are a key part of the work that we're funding here, but you cannot find really many heat pump manufacturers in the United States. Every one of the $16 billion that I have, and I want you to listen to this close because it does have some relevance to think about where you might fit in or where you want to innovate. Every dollar from that $16 billion is under what we call BABA, B-A-B-A. BABA means Build America, Buy American. And so when Congress passed these laws, they said, well, look, first and foremost, if you can find these items in the United States, we're going to force you to buy these items in the United States. Part of the problem is that, when it comes to these technologies and things of that nature, you don't find many of them in the United States being manufactured. And so part of what I've pushed and talked about when I go to communities is about thinking about being a part of that manufacturing and think about setting up manufacturing that can manufacture these technologies. So when you look at the whole home house rebates or the home rebate program, these are areas where these technologies are going to go into homes all across the United States, in every single state, every single territory. If someone was able to come up with new technologies or things of that nature here in the United States, then by law, these grantees that I give money to would have to actually buy those items from that individual. If you look on the right side of the screen, the home efficiency contractor training and the building codes adoption grants, what these really are, we're trying to invest in both the supply and demand side of this equation, meaning that if we can support, we have $1 billion that we're giving the states and local governments to say, well, look, you come up with new codes to make your buildings more energy efficient, which then forces those developers to actually buy these new technologies. And so that's part of the demand side, where we're saying, hey, we're gonna create the demand for these products. But then somebody has to put those products in. And so the $200 million that you see here focuses on training individuals and contractors. So contractors are entrepreneurs who go out into your home. And so, a lot of you perhaps have brought things from Home Depot or Lowe's or someplace. And when you get to the counter to buy it, then you got to get somebody to install it, right? So they come up with somebody that can come out and they can install it on Tuesday or Wednesday or 2 weeks from now. Well, that's a contractor list. Those are entrepreneurs who are out there. A lot of times somebody comes to your home and they're not actually Home Depot or Lowe's employees. They have their own business and they're working on behalf of that. So we're actually funding with $200 million, training those who own these contracted companies to install these technologies and so that's where things like curriculum or things like training programs, we're funding a lot of training programs may come in handy. And so again, keep that in mind because this work is incredibly broad in terms of what it touches and where it touches. So wherever you are, you get that opportunity. The last kind of programmatic slide I have is I went from the $10 billion from Inflation Reduction Act and now to $6 billion in the bipartisan infrastructure law. These are all the different things that I talked about kind of before. If you start from kind of the top left, the blue box, the building training assessment centers as a workforce training program. So folks who have training centers that can train individuals, particularly individuals who aren't, who are chronically underemployed or unemployed. We're looking to support those work. Same thing with skills training and same thing with energy audit training. Energy audit means that before you go into somebody's house and upgrade the actual house with new technology, somebody's got to essentially go in and do an assessment. A lot of the programs that I run, the technologies that get installed before they can be paid for, someone has the model that the home, once they get these new technologies, is going to have a certain amount of savings from energy. Usually that is 20% energy savings. One of the biggest issues that we see across the United States is what we call energy burden, which means the idea is that people end up spending more of their money on energy costs than they should. It's like and so they end up becoming what we call energy insecure. because their energy bill is costing so much, which is why we're trying to move to these particular kind of new technologies to reduce that energy burden, particularly on low-income households. We're actually trying to create something called virtual power plants, which I would encourage you to Google virtual power plants. Virtual power plants ultimately looks at how do you turn your house into part of the energy generator of a community. So imagine your house, which right now you use energy. Your electric bill, your utility sends you a bill every single month. You pay that bill to the electric company. If more and more houses come into the community, then the electric company's got to say, well, look, we got to find some way to generate more electricity for those additional houses. So they usually go to some state regulator and ask to essentially create a new power plant, right? And so that's where they then say, well, we got to raise rates on people and things of that nature. But what we're trying to do is invest in ways that that utilities don't have to actually create new power plants. They can actually use your home. They can put your home as part of the grid, put solar panels on your home, put these different technologies in your house where you're actually utilizing solar or other ways to generate energy. And maybe the energy you use, maybe you actually generate more energy than you use. The idea of the virtual power plant is that you would then be able to sell that additional energy to the grid, to somebody else who uses more energy. So not only do you reduce your energy bill, but you also make money by selling your excess energy someplace else. And so that's why these technologies end up being so important to that, because of course you got to have some kind of way to control that, through thermostats and through different levels. You got to have batteries that can store the energy. You got to have ways to, again, capture the sun and not lose as much efficiency. So technology and innovation is a key part of this. And it's why I hope that the Black Innovation Alliance can really take advantage of these different opportunities to plug into this, because, the $16 billion that I have, the $100 billion of DOE, the $500 billion across federal government is just the beginning. These are investments that are going to be coming for years and years forward. The U.S. government, many allies across the world have billions of dollars invested in these goals of getting to zero energy usage by 2035 or 2050. And so the only way you do that is by going in and integrate new technologies, new insights in the homes, in the cars, into manufacturing processes, all these kind of things. One of the interesting ideas that folks are working on, we do a lot of partnerships with Department of Transportation and EPA and other folks. And so there's about to put $27 billion out focused around solar, community solar around the country. And so if you can find a way to plug into that marketplace, we're trying to think about how to plug in, Black farmers and others who have land that they can put community solar on, and then have others set that up. Department of Transportation, we have kind of like strategic partnerships where they're trying to put like charging into the highway so that when you drive along the highway, your car gets charged, as opposed to having to stop and plug up to a plug station and have to sit for 30 minutes or an hour or a couple of hours. So these are all things that I hope that can kind of spark your imagination. Again, schools and states and weatherization and revolving loan funds. And so these are just a few of the provisions. My last slide as I finish up is how can you find out more about this work and the work that we do? We have a monthly newsletter called State and Local Spotlight, which probably will be released tomorrow. It gets released right around the end of every month. So the November one should be coming out soon. I generally have a director's message as part of that to kind of really give a update on what we're doing. This is the newsletter that generally kind of gives a sense of what funding is coming out, things of that nature. You can also visit energy.gov/bill. That'll show you what's going on across the whole Department of Energy. So not just in my shop, but across DOE writ large. You get a chance to see perhaps wherever you kind of, as they say, get in where you fit in, wherever you plug up, whatever your background may be, you may be able to find an opportunity to connect to dollars and cents. And so I would just kind of say, stay resilient and look at those aspects. I mentioned earlier that, a lot of these dollars actually go out to our grantees, state and local government. So you should really pay a lot of attention with what's going on in your state energy office. Go to, XYZ state energy office and see what's going on there, because that's where a lot of the money is going to hit the street. Go to your local government, because we gave about $20 about 2,000 grants to local governments, to county governments around the country. So this money is everywhere. It's all around you. And so I hope you take advantage of this. And if you sign up for our spotlight and our website, then what we're going to be doing in the coming months is actually putting up a kind of an ongoing needs assessment. We're leveraging technologies a lot internally as well. We have 28 different programs touching 250 million Americans that are all very different and complex. So we're looking for new tools and technologies and things of that nature to be helpful in the work that we do from that standpoint. And I give you just kind of this hint. Not sure kind of what you know about, certifications and things of that nature. I mean, some of you maybe have certifications at the state level, a minority business, historically underutilized business, things of that nature. The federal government has some of the same things, and particularly around what we could, you may have heard of 8A businesses. So the 8A is a certification for historically disadvantaged businesses that you go through to say, hey, I'm certified that I'm a underrepresented minority business. And if you get that certification, it does open up some opportunities for businesses that can do work directly with the federal government. There's a $50 billion, I said it again, $50 billion kind of investment into historically underutilized businesses across the federal government. So there's opportunity there. So I will end there and stop sharing, and we may have the opportunity to bring Iffy back, and if there's questions, happy to answer.
Awesome, thank you. I do think there looks like there was a question here around the partnerships. Do they include innovation and entrepreneurship? Tammy, is that a question that you raised? So just wanted to know, Henry, if the TA partnerships included innovation and entrepreneurship.
Yeah. So thank you. That I wasn't able to follow the chat during the thing, but I do see the question now. It does. I mean, in terms of the TA partnerships, what we're always looking for are ways to do the work better, to be more innovative, to be more efficient. So, for example, we have partnerships around what we call Better Buildings initiative. And so we have, we pull together folks from around the country who are all trying to find better solutions to helping those buildings become more energy efficient or things of that nature. That, again, could include technology that actually goes in there, but it could also include curriculum. It could include any number of things. And so I say TA partnership, innovation, entrepreneurship is a key part of the work. I mentioned, the contractor network and things of that nature. Part of the Justice 40 executive order essentially says that we need to find better ways to move forth entrepreneurial ventures in the federal government for historically disadvantaged communities. One of the things that I do in our work in the area that we have is that we set goals each year for wanting to work with more minority businesses, particularly in what I call core areas. What I mean by that is that instead of it being, well, let's create some side project, here's a few dollars, check a box, we did this, it actually says, well, what is the work that we do all the time, every day, all day, every year, that we pay contractors to do on a regular basis? And how do we find businesses that wouldn't normally get access opportunities to those? How do we find them and get them engaged? And so I would say really innovation and entrepreneurship runs throughout our throughout our system. I see that the question is how can our network of ecosystem builders tap into these resources? Or any of these targeted towards people supporting entrepreneurs directly. So I would say, have, a follow-up where, reach out to us here, and I can actually, make sure that you all have some contact information related to, how you can connect, because, we have 28 different programs, and they have subsets of programs and things of that nature. And so we often ultimately look and see, okay, what are the opportunities here? Try to get you better connected to the work that we do, so that you can understand that. I will say this from my perspective. I'm very interested in I guess what you would call the innovation network. I'm very interested in this notion of making sure that Black innovators are part of the work that's happening. We've been engaging more and more with historically Black colleges in terms of their business programs, their entrepreneur programs. We certainly want to see entrepreneurs build capacity, and so I'm talking in kind of in real time. So I mean, obviously, it may take a much more thoughtful conversation, but I'm certainly interested in a situation where someone can take and better understand the kinds of work that we do across the Department of Energy, to understand the kinds of opportunities that are in place for technology or for innovation or for training or things of that nature, and then figure out, well, how do you make sure that gets connected to the Black Innovation Network, right? Because like anything else, it's really about a lot of times upskilling or reskilling or retraining. And we think about that a lot of times from the workforce, but it also works like that from an entrepreneurship standpoint, right? It's finding new markets, identifying new markets and things of that nature. And particularly in our case, where we've made a concerted effort to focus on equity, on justice, on going into communities that historically haven't been there, like I said, around everything from EV charging to manufacturing to all those kind of things. And so it may not look exactly like it's looked historically, but if you're somebody who can figure out how do we get more Black entrepreneurs into this work, into these technologies, into this development, into those kind of things, there's a lot of value in that. And there's a lot of value in that, not only at the federal level, but again, every dollar that I send out, those states, those local governments have to come to me and tell me what their plan is going to be to include more entrepreneurs from historically disadvantaged background or underrepresented. So a state, a local government has to figure out some kind of way to tap into these entrepreneurial networks themselves and say, hey, we're actually working with this particular company to do this work. We're actually working with this particular company to do that work. And so yeah, certainly the work that Iffy and Kelly and all of you all are doing as part of the network is something of value. We have some of the same partners you do with the White House Office of Black Americans and the Office of HBCUs. So a lot of the same collaborators and a lot of the same partners from that standpoint. And like I said, I just ultimately want the network to be able to understand kind of, as they say, where the hockey puck is going, where the money's going, how do you get there and be ready for it? Because again, this is just the beginning, and I think there's just great opportunity going forward.
Yeah, thank you for that. We have a couple more questions. I want to state though, I want to make sure that I don't lose that. I think what also is helpful, whether it's you, USPTO, and our federal agencies, is also communicating up to the federal spaces that you all are leading in, to talk a little bit about these spaces that provide supports, even such as this information, to thousands of entrepreneurs on the ground. Sometimes federal government, it feels like it's like one contractor, one business applying to the federal government. And one of the things that I think that's emerging from even some of the questions is, how do we also create resources for the organizations that support hundreds and even upward of thousands of entrepreneurs that are trying to get connected to these opportunities? So I would love to keep speaking with you, Henry, about that, because there are some things that you raised about upskilling, reskilling. Some organizations maybe need to think a little bit about how to include this in their current businesses and plans, and or how to include more training opportunities for the entrepreneurs that they support. And sometimes that isn't as cleanly identified in some of the RFPs or some of the different contracting opportunities. So want to make sure we stay in close communication with you, because a lot of the resources that are in DOE are kind of the larger, they have larger appropriated dollars connected to it. And so we want to make sure that folks that are able can be connected. This is a administrative question, which is, what is the process to apply for the contracts that you have shared or the opportunities that you have shared? And specifically, are we looking at proposals? Is there a specific email? Do people have to apply for a request? If you can just share with us a little bit as to how folks should connect to those opportunities that you mentioned.
Yeah, so thank you. And I actually try to respond to your first part of the question because it actually ties to the second part of the question as well. So, it's a lot. I mean, it's I used to go around and give these talks. I speak a lot around the country and talk about the work, and I lead with equity and justice, and I get all these kind of fancy titles to the U.S. government funding for this and this. But at some point I was telling folks, I mean, it was like, it was simply put, in terms of our funding, it was like, everything everywhere all at once, right? It was, I mean, that could have been easily the title. So, there's some ways it's not a super easy answer because the funding goes into so many different buckets that, some of the funding that we have requires you to put together a proposal, and those proposals are always easy. We're trying to find ways to simplify proposals. We're trying to push our general counsel, who's our legal folks, who tell us what we got to put in the document, stuff like that. We're trying to push them to let us be more creative in terms of how we get to communities, because frankly, a lot of times the places and communities that need the resources the most are the ones that are kind of least positioned to come out there. When somebody sends me when one of my team members sends me a proposal, or they send me a template that I got to approve before it goes out, and the template is 130 pages, right, with nothing else in it. I mean, that can be pretty daunting whenever it's time for somebody on the outside to then fill that out. So we're trying to do innovative things with, asking for concept papers or things of that nature. So one of the ways that we, I say this is that I really, and this could be a service that you offer, could be something that or whatever, but because there's so much information out there, I mean, somebody needs to probably be kind of following it all the time, because we're in the Department of Energy. We release request for proposal all the time. We just released a request for proposal, $3.5 billion like last week, focused around, again, battery manufacturing and technologies and things of that nature. And again, I just named the programs in my office. We got different offices around the organization. So one of it is perhaps coming up with a strategy for somebody just really going out and following the money, right, to a certain extent. What I'm trying to do on my side from that is actually, again, this ties into the question, is actually figure out how do we institutionalize this kind of communication into the organization, right? So there's not, something that is periodic, but actually there's some kind of regular kind of resource and information. A part of that would be for you all to again go out to our site and get on the newsletter, because the newsletter really does say, next month we're going to release this particular funding opportunity, or we're going to give you that notice. But I would like to find a way. So here's a resource that I can connect you to that we're about to kind of partner around. A number of you, some of you, all of you may have heard about the Minority Business Development Agency, MBDA, which is a federal agency within the government. Whenever the bipartisan infrastructure law got passed in 2021, the Minority Business Development Agency got a lump sum of money. It was actually one of those organizations that had to be annually reauthorized, which I never knew, because I've known the MBDA forever. I thought it was a permanent organization, but evidently it had to be reauthorized every single year. But now it's a permanent agency. It's under Undersecretary Don Cravens. So we're partnering with the MBDA procurement team, and I think Cravens was at the CBC event, I think, with us, right? So they have an MBDA procurement office that actually is set up just to work with minority entrepreneurs who say, well, look, I want to get into federal contract, and I want to get into this, right? And so it's run by a brother named Keith Moore, who basically runs that office. They've had some incredible history in the past. They helped, for those who know, kind of Worldwide Technology, which is a very large tech firm run by a Black entrepreneur. The Minority Business Development Procurement Agency helped kind of get them an early contract. So one of the takeaways we might be able to do from here is me connecting you all with the Minority Business Development Agency Procurement Center, who actually we're talking right now about supporting them setting up some kind of some kind of bridge to the work that we do with minority entrepreneurs, Black entrepreneurs. And so it could be that kind of middle person to say, well, okay, you got something like the Black Innovation Alliance, who has this whole network of providers that you're tapped into. We got these federal programs over here that has all these resources, things of that nature, but there's a process for getting these dollars that can be a black box in a lot of ways. And we're trying to demystify that, making that connection between the Minority Business Development Agency procurement team, BIA, to kind of streamline that process, maybe a way that we can do it. And then from that, we can think about, what may be something like a more turnkey process, a toolkit that is more easily accessible to your membership. And really, thinking about, I'm always a big proponent of understanding what the landscape is, understanding where you are in that mix, and figuring out how to close any gaps. And so we're committed to creating opportunity. I see Monica put into the chat the MBDA government portal, and like I said, we can find ways to connect in very direct ways to perhaps create just like the Congressional Caucus on Black Innovation came about, by close collaboration. In fact, we just one of the fellows I brought into the office back in the spring is a Congressional Black Caucus fellow, and I brought her in just for the fact of trying to find more strategic ways to connect to the Congressional Black Caucus opportunities and things like that. And so I've certainly had conversations with Kelly about, perhaps, ways that the Black Innovation Alliance can support our desire to see more entrepreneurs, more Black entrepreneurs take advantage of these opportunities.
Wow, I know we are literally at time, but I am literally, my mind is going as to the many different opportunities for ongoing innovation that is needed for connectivity, which is to say, for anyone who is listening or who is watching at this moment, that this is not the final say of where any of these opportunities lie, that in many ways we are also in a position of being connected to folks that we can collaborate with to create better, more equitable opportunities moving forward. I was going to ask this of you as well. I know Monica and the USPTO team have shared their email on a slide, which was Eastern Regional Outreach Office, and each of those words are spelled out, Eastern Regional Outreach Office at uspto.gov. Dr. McCoy, is there a general email that folks can reach out to you or your team at? You're on mute. I don't know if you're saying something to me.
You can't relive it.
I'm not that good.
Let me see if I can in this 2 minutes find this. We have an Office of Community Engagement, which it has a email address that we ask folks to contact, and that can help direct people to where they going. So let me see if I can.
Awesome. We will get that information out to everyone. We want everyone to also stay connected to Black Innovation Alliance. Please make sure that you are also getting our newsletters, our marketing. As we like to say, we do not spam. We share information that is valuable. We also want to make sure that all of this results in robust feedback from you all as to what would help your businesses, what would help your organizations and the various entrepreneurs that you are supporting. We will also make sure that any templates, tools, resources that come from USPTO and DOE are also being shared with you all, so that you can also share with the entrepreneurs that you support. And what we will do as we're wrapping up is we will make sure that any emails, contact information will also be shared and distributed with everyone as well. Again, our email is blackinnovationalliance.com. That is also where we will be sharing the replay and the rebroadcast of this. Dr. McCoy, we will follow up with you and your team on the contact information for people to better direct their questions to at DOE. you all also see us as a resource if you are trying to get information out there. Monica, we appreciate you and your team also presenting from USPTO. And we thank you all, and we hope you all have a great holiday. Talk with you soon.
Thank you all.
Thank you.